Okay, I'm John Redpath, Chairman of the Charlotteville Jubilee Trust. We're a local residents association, and one of the properties we own is the Spike in Guildford, which we've converted into a heritage centre and a community centre, which is very well used by the local community. Right, on first impression, this may look like a grubby white enamelled dog bowl that's gone slightly rusty. It's not the traditional enamel you get nowadays with a nice blue edge to it. It's very, very crudely made, and it's made out of a very, very impure steel. When we first found this under the stairs at the Spike, the assumption was that this was some sort of bowl that the tramps and vagrants used to eat out of. How wrong we were when we found this. A serrated disc that fits inside the bowl, slightly rusted in the middle, clearly making this a spittoon. Very, very common in the period up until most probably the Second World War, was spitting. And certainly during the 19th century, spitting was what your workman did. He would have all sorts of infections in his lungs, coal dust, mucus from illness or what have you, and spitting was very, very common, and in every room you would find one of these objects, and certainly in a building like the Spike there would have been an awful lot of spitting, and these things would have been very well used. We believe that this particular spittoon dates back to 1906 and was most probably purchased at the same time that the Spike, also built in 1906, was kitted out. However, it could date earlier than that, possibly from Henry Peake's Spike that was built slightly further down the road in 1872 and housed 13 vagrants in much better conditions actually than this Spike. It's quite possible it was made in Surrey. As late as the 1990s there was a workshop at the back of a pub called the Live and Let Live that did turning of steel. That sort of industry was quite common in this area. It could well have been made within Surrey. It was unusual to transport a lot of stuff in those days. Okay, a small oval tin box which has been lacquered in a dark lacquer, very crudely made, and one might wonder what it contains. And strangely enough, we all associate health and safety nowadays with something that's quite modern and quite new and of this century. Well, in the last century, people staying for a night in a workhouse who could not pay to stay there were made to do a task of work, and one of the common tasks of work was breaking stones. And in this particular part of Guildford, the stone was often flint. Imagine the shards of sharp flint flying off, and one would think in that careless age that nobody bothered with health and safety. Well, this little box proves it wrong. If we open the box, we see inside is what is almost a work of art. It's a small pair of goggles that look like a very small, or in shape, the sort of mask that maybe swimmers wear. It is in fact made of a black Japan wire mesh held together with lace, and these were eye protectors for those poor vagrants breaking stones. And it does show that possibly people did care. From the precedence with this, we got a note with it that from a workhouse master that these date back to about 1877, which is most probably about right, because in 1872 they brought in a whole lot of measures to the 1834 Poor Law that changed it in many ways for the better. Whilst it might be unlikely that these were actually used here at this Spike, or indeed in this workhouse union, it is almost certain, due to the nature of stone that was broken here, large lumps of flint, that eye protectors like this would have been issued to the inmates to protect their eyes from the shards that would have been flying in all directions as they were pounding the stones with a long shafted stone-breaking hammer. How we came by these is rather interesting and slightly fun, except for the owner. Now, these were actually bought on eBay. They must be very rare, and we're very lucky to get them. We started bidding for them on eBay, and my wife bid, and we got to about, I think, £35, and we'd noticed that there was one other bidder. We recognised the name of that bidder, and it turned out to be workhouse historian Peter Higginbotham, who was also a consultant to us and a very good friend. We gave Peter a phone call, telling him that we would be very interested in purchasing these, and he was a complete sport, and we managed to pick these up for £38, which is an absolute bargain, and they are the pride of our collection. Our aim is to try and get these copied by a local model maker, so that we can give a set to children to handle and maybe even wear. Okay, this is an Edwardian stone-breaking grill. The Guildford Spike at one time had 13 of these, and there's a bit of a mystery because the Guardians had asked Edward Lunn, the architect, to provide 3 stone-breaking grills and 10 wood-chopping grills. So it seemed odd that when we took the building on, we'd ended up with 4 stone-breaking grills. But in fact, Lunn had been very clever, and he'd made a multi-purpose grill. If you were breaking stones, if that was your task of work for the morning, early in the morning, 5–6 o'clock in the morning, this would be swung open, and 100 weight or so of rough flint, or maybe Bargate stone would have been thrown in there, the grill would have been shut, and it would have been your task to break up those stones and pass them back through the grill when they're of a sufficient size. Having done that task of work, you would have earned your meal ticket, and you would be given a piece of paper that you could cash in at a local cafe to pay for a breakfast or a cup of tea and a slice of bread. On the other hand, if you were breaking, or if you were chopping wood, which was another task, cutting up railway sleepers, and then blocks of railway sleeper were fed in here. If you were chopping up wood, a plate would have been taken off the bottom, where there are slots, and the chopped kindling wood would have been fed out through the slots and collected in a basket below.